Hello, everyone. In this session, I'm going to be talking about SAP UI5 Adaptation. So this is a process in which you can take SAP standard delivered apps and you can extend it or customize it to meet your business requirements. So there are three different personas that SAP allows you to extend apps. So as an end user, you can personalize the apps for yourself. But it is limited in functionality, so you can add variants to your application and so on. And that is the end user persona. So as a key user persona, so this is a business user who understands the business process, they also have the capability of extending the SAP standard delivered apps. So you can adapt the business for your line of business. But in this session, though, we are going to be talking about the developer persona. So as a developer persona, you can adapt existing apps for everyone. So you can do a lot more complex stuff because you can go under the covers and you can make changes to the code as well. So here is a quick table that lists when you want to do the key user adaptation and when you want to use the developer adaptation project. So as a key user, you would be making changes in the runtime application. You would go into the adapt UI mode and then you would add and remove certain UI elements. And it is basically no code. You just drag and drop elements, you remove stuff based on the menu item and so on. But with the developer code, you would be using the SAP build code. You can extend the controller, you can add fragments. So you would do a combination of using code and also a little bit of the visual editor as well. And that is what we are going to be looking at today. And which versions of SAP S/4HANA is it supported? You can see from the slide that it supports pretty much every version of SAP S/4HANA. Earlier this year, sometime in March or so, we also supported the SAP S/4HANA cloud version. So you can even do a developer adaptation on the SAP S/4HANA cloud version as well. So you can do it on the cloud private edition, the cloud public edition. There's a little bit of a difference in how the apps are deployed, but otherwise everything is supported. So you can see here that you can do the developer adaptation on the SAP Cloud Foundry environment as well. Okay, so there is the concept of the layering concept. So when you do the adaptation, you would be using the customer base layer so that it allows you to override some of the changes from the vendor layer. So vendor layer is where this is the standard SAP delivered apps. So on the list report, you can make quite a few changes. You can add columns in the smart table. You can add additional filters. You can add buttons here. You can add buttons to the table. And also on the object page as well, you can make quite a few changes. You can look at all the changes that you can make in the SAP UI5 demo kit. And you can, of course, add controller extensions where you can add custom logic. So you can add or override existing controller logic of the base application. You can also hook into the lifecycle methods like on init, on before rendering, on after rendering, on exit. And basically, you can manage the lifecycle of the application. And custom logic is seamlessly executed along with the base controller methods. Okay, so enough of the slide deck. Let's get started. So here I am. I'm using the Business Application Studio. You can also use your local Visual Studio Code if you want. So they have SAP has added support for the local Visual Studio Code environment as well. But in this case, I'm using the Business Application Studio. So what you can do is you can start with a project. So you can use the template wizard, open template wizard. And in this open template wizard, what you're going to do is you're going to go and select the adaptation project. So select the adaptation project and you can go to the next. So here is my SAP UI5 adaptation project. Say next. And here we need to tell which system we are going to extend. So in my case, this is going to be a SAP S/4HANA system on-prem. So you need to have a destination in your SAP BTP that points to this SAP S/4HANA on-premise. I already have a destination, so I'm going to select ABAP because that's the environment that this SAP S/4HANA system is. So here in my let me close this so it's bigger. I give a project name. Adapt demo is what I'm going to give. Now you can see that it's automatically adding the customer space, manage customer adapt demo. So this customer key is a keyword, and it gets automatically prefixed to your project name. Do not change it. Leave it the way it is. Just make sure you give a proper project name and let the namespace be automatically created. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the manage credits application. So manage credit variant. So you can give any title that you want and say next. And this is where you select the SAP S4HANA the destination to connect to your system. So this is a destination that I have already set up in my SAP BTP. This is now connecting to my SAP S4HANA system, which is on-prem, and it's going to connect and it's going to list all the applications that are available in the SAP S4HANA system. And because I know the application that I'm interested in, manage credit accounts, so I'm going to select the manage credit accounts, and this is the application that I want to extend. So I'm going to extend this, and then it's going to show me the SAP UI5 version on my SAP S4HANA system. I'm going to leave it the way it is, but if you want to change it to a different UI5 version, you can do that as well. Now, what it's going to do, it's going to scaffold the project. So it's going to create like a reference application, like the application is going to reference the base application, but it's going to create a skeleton of this new variant of the application. So the application is now created. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open the folder and I'm going to go into the adapt demo. That's the one that I just created. So let me say, okay, so this is going to open up my application itself. And if I look at the file structure here, and you will see that there is the web app folder, there is the I-18 files, and this is for localization. There is the manifest.json file, and this manifest.json file, if you look at it, it contains a few entries for the I-18. So basically, a pretty much like a bare bone application. The only thing it does is it references the main application right here. So this is going to be my main application right here. And you can see that the layer is customer base, so it's able to override any changes to the main application. Now, there are a couple of ways in which you can start looking at the application itself. So one way is you can right click on the web app, go into adaptation project. You can click on the open adaptation editor. And what it's going to do is it's going to open up the adaptation project in a graphical manner. And this allows you to go ahead and make changes. So they've changed the UI a little bit in order to support the local Visual Studio Code editor. Before it would open up within the same tab within the SAP Business Application Studio, but now you can see that it's opening it in a separate tab. Now on the left pane, you have all the elements, the UI elements that are available, but it's filtered by most commonly used. So if you remove this, now it's going to show all of the UI components that is available. And in the middle is where you can actually make changes. So you can right click here and you can add some fragments, or you can adapt filters and so on. And on the right side, you have the properties of the elements that you select. And it also has like a certain fast way of doing stuff. So you can see here that I don't have a clear button on my filter bar, but you can see that there are some quick actions right here. It says enable clear button in filter bar. So I can click on this and voila, you can see the clear button in this filter bar. So just clicking on it allows you to do that. And you can see that on my changes that there is a show clear filter bar that's already saved here. And what I can do is now I can save and I can reload this, and now there is going to be the clear button here as well. Now if I want a running application, I can also go into navigation mode, and in navigation mode this application is actually running. So I can even click on the go button, and it's going to actually do the it's going to go get the data, and it's going to show on this screen right here. So right now let me go ahead and click on go again. So you can see that it's actually doing the work. It's going to go get some data and show on the list report page. Okay, so now this is one way of doing this, and this is something that actually you can do with the key user extension as well. You can use the runtime, you can go into the adapt UI, and you can do this as well. So this is not something new. This is like the developer extension can do everything that a key user extension can do and even more. Now, if I actually go back into this code itself, you can see that this code is like a bare minimal. There is a manifest file, and you can also adapt this application from this manifest file here itself. So what you can do is I have some code snippet already done, so I can go and add that code snippet. And in this code snippet, I can go ahead and add this extra bit of code. Now this code, what it's going to do is it's going to add a variant to the table setting itself. So if I go back to my application, if I go into my UI adaptation right now, you will see that there is a, let me also reload this page because there is some saved changes. So you can see that now the table also will have a variant because we have added this changes to the variant as well. So if I go ahead and maybe refresh the screen, so I should see like a variant to this application also. Okay, looks like I have copied the variant in the wrong place. Okay, so I should have made sure that I copied it in the right place. So let me go ahead and put it in the right place so that it will show up. So here, what I can do is if I put it in the right place, then I can be, yeah, then I can go back to my adapt UI, make sure everything looks good. Yeah, I can. Okay, you can see that there is a variant for the table setting here as well. So how did I find this code and how did I make sure that I have the right code right here? So if you go into the SAP UI5 demo kit and if you go ahead and look at the documentation gives you like how you can change this manifest file to make changes to your adaptation project. So there are different types of scenarios right here. So you can select the scenario that you want and you can pretty much copy and paste the code. You may have to change the entity set value, but otherwise you can go ahead and copy and paste the code verbatim. So if you want to change the table to a responsive table or a grid table or so, you can easily change it by just copying and pasting this. Of course, you may want to change the entity set, but otherwise you can simply copy verbatim. All this code is available on how you can go ahead and change some of these the configuration settings of the applications by changing the manifest.yaml file. Okay, so now that we have seen how we can use the manifest.yaml file to make changes, let's also look at how you can make some changes that involve some custom logic code. So for this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add a filter to this filter bar. So I can click on this right here and I can say add fragmented extension point. So I can select, I can give any name I want. So I'm going to say my custom filter. And what this is going to do is this is going to create a fragment for me. So if I say create, you can, if you go back to your code, you can see that there is a web app changes and there is, and let me also go ahead and refresh this. It's going to, oh, let me also save this as well. So there may be some unsaved changes. So let me go ahead and save this. And let me also reload this app. So this new UI, I'm getting still trying to get used to it. So here is my fragments and this is my fragment that got created. Now what I want to do is I want to go ahead and add a new filter. So I have some code already set up right here. So here, let me go ahead and add this code. So this is probably the code that I have. Okay, maybe not this code. Okay, so here is the code that I have. Let me go ahead and explain this code a little bit. Very simple right here. What I want to do is I'm going to add a custom control, and this custom control is a combo box. So in my filter bar, now there is going to be a combo box, and this combo box is going to have two items in it, one that says tax required, the other one that says no tax required. And one of the things you want to do when you have a fragment is you want to give an ID to all your UI elements. This is not mandatory, but it is highly recommended. So if you do want to use these UI elements to do something, then this is the way by which you can get a reference to this ID to this UI element. So definitely give an ID, and this ID needs to be both unique. Of course, if it is not unique, it's not going to load the page at all, and it also needs to be stable, which means don't keep changing the ID for any reason. Okay, so now that you have the ID and everything, so there should be in my UI. If I go ahead and reload it. Okay, so this UI is kind of new to me. So once you go ahead and reload this, you will see this My Custom Filter. It's a drop down. And if I go into the navigation part, I can also make sure that it shows those two entries in this. Yeah, you see no tax required and tax required. Obviously, it's not going to do anything because we have not added any code. So if I click on Go, this is just going to do the two entries like it was doing before. So now what I can do is I can add code so that this My Custom Filter, you can have some kind of logic here that allows you to go ahead and filter based on this new filter that you've added. In order to add code, of course, you need to do it with a controller. So I'm going to say extend with controller. And for the controller, I'm going to give a name, master controller extension. Again, you can give any name you want, but this is the master page or the list report page. I call it master, and I always like to suffix it with the word extension. That way I know this is an extension controller file. So now this extension file is created. Let me also go ahead and reload this, and I go into my file explorer, and you can see that in the coding there is this master controller extension.js file that's created, and for all of the code is commented out. Now do not change the folder structure of these files. The folder structure, the SAP framework is keying in on these folder structures to adapt these applications. So do not change this folder structure. So how do I make add some custom logic for this particular thing, right? Because I want to go ahead and change the way the filter works. So when I hit the Go button, I want to go ahead and make sure that based on the values in the filter, I can go ahead and do some custom logic right here. So for this, again, I have some code, and I will show you how this code works. So here I'm going to go ahead and add this code right here. Now, what we are doing is we are overriding, right? And we are overriding the base, the template base extension. So in the base application, there is a template for add filters. So this template is already part and parcel of the list report application. So in the list report application, you have this add filters method already out there. So what you're going to do is you're going to override it, and in this and the way you can do that is you say override, and then you select this template based extension, and you have access to this add filters method. There are also other methods available. So just look in the SAP UI5 document. So if I go into this SAP UI5 document, and if I go into adaptation of extending standard apps, you will see that you can see that there is add filters, and it's available for risk report, analytical page, object page, and so on. And you can also see that there are various other methods that are available for you to extend as well. But in our case, add filters is what we want. And what we really want is we want to get access to this combo box. And how do I get access to the combo box? And these 3 lines of code is going to give you access to the combo box. And again, like I said, the ID is really key because this is how we can get access to the combo box. So you get the namespace. In our case, it was customer.dem demo adapt.demo. So this will give me the namespace, and then with the namespace, I can go ahead and append my ID. So if I go into my custom filter.xml, you can see this is my ID for my combo box. So with that, I get access to my combo box. So once I get access to my combo box, I can get the selected key by using the O combo box that gets selected key. So now that I have the key, now this is all based on what you want in your custom logic. So basically what I'm saying is if that key is no tags required, then I go ahead and do something. And if it is tags required, then I go ahead and do something else. Now, one thing I have also done is, oh, maybe I should do it like this. No tags required. Then it should be tags required and default. But anyways. Okay, so one other thing I have done is I have purposefully created an error right here. So you can see this filter. I have not defined what this filter is, so I have not. So I've purposefully added an exception into this thing. So what's going to happen is if I go into my edit thing and if I go into my navigation, this is of course going to fail because I have some error message, right? So let me go ahead and reload this. And if I go and hit go, this is going to fail. So SAP also provides you with the way. So let me go back to navigation, and if I hit go right here, this is failing, and I have no idea why it's failing, even though I know because I've purposefully introduced that bug. So SAP has provided with a way in which you can actually preview the application and also debug it as well. So here in my web app, I can go into adaptation project, and instead of opening it in the adaptation editor, now I can open it in open preview. Now, by opening it in open preview, it allows me to do some debugging as well. So I can use the normal debugging tools from Chrome. So I can open up the debugging tools and I can see what is happening behind the scenes. So let's go ahead and click go right here, and you can see that, hey, filter is not defined. So now I know what the issue is. I can go ahead and fix it. I can go back here to my thing right here, and I can go ahead and add the definition for the filter and the filter expression right here. So I've added the filter and the filter expression. So I can go ahead and say filter, comma, filter, oops, filter operator as well. So now that I have both of them here, then this application should go ahead and work the way I want it to work. So this should come back here with so the preview mode. I can go ahead and now I can go ahead and hit go. And this should give me both. It should give me based on the logic that I have. So if I do, let's say if I do tags required, then it's going to give me just a single row based on the code that I have. Okay, so now this is working. So we can add some code and we can add some logic here as well. What I can also do is I can go into this edit thing right here. I can add a button to this toolbar here as well. So I can go into the UI adaptation mode. We already know the dance right now, so I can click on this add fragment to add a new button. And in this case, the content is the aggregation. So the index is 11, which means it's going to put the button all the way at the end. But I want the button somewhere earlier than that. So I'm going to change the index, and I'm going to go ahead and add my custom button. So this is the name of my fragment. So this is going to go ahead and create a fragment called my custom button fragment. So let me go ahead, save and reload this. So there should be a fragment, and of course this fragment is empty at this moment, so you won't see anything right here. But in my fragments, you can see that there is a my custom button fragment, and it's already added a button. So actually, I should be able to see like a button right here. So there is a new button right here. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and change. I'm going to add the fragment myself. So basically, I took the button, I gave it an ID. So we already know the significance of this ID. Say text, I changed the text to say hello. Now the key thing here is how do I go about sending the the press event handler. So in a typical SAP UI5 application, you would simply go ahead and say the name of your event handler. But in this case, you have to go ahead and specify it in this particular format. So this extension is the keyword that you really want to use. So dot extension is how you would start it. And then you would use the namespace of your application. So this is the namespace of our application, customer.adapt.demo. And this is the controller, the master controller extension. So that's the master controller extension. And this is your method itself, on greeting press. So now that I have the event handler, let me go ahead and add the event handler here as well. So what I can do is I can simply go in here and add an event handler here. And in this case, I'm simply just going to say, I'm just going to add a message box. So which also means that I need to bring in the message box here. So let me go ahead and bring the message box. Okay, let me also bring the message box, which is okay, so I will simply add the message box myself. So I'm also going to bring in the message toast and the message box. Message toast, message box. So I have both of them together. So now the application should work the way we want. Basically, it's going to say good morning as the success. Say hello, because that is the text of this button right here. Say hello. Okay, so now it is showing, and I can say get the good morning as well. So with this new UI, I'm still trying to figure it out, but I was hoping it would automatically preview the app, which is how it was behaving in the previous version. Okay, so now you have you're able to add a button here. You're able to add a new filter in the filter bar, and everything is working fine. Now let's go into the details page as well. So maybe I should close this and run it, and I should open a new adaptation editor as well. So in the object page, so once I go into the object page, what I really want to do is I want to do some kind of validation before I go to the before I save. So if I click on go, and if I go into the object page right here, and I want to do some validation here before I hit the save button. So if I go into the edit mode, you can see that there is a save button. But before I do the save, what I want to do is I want to do some validation on my custom field. And typically what you would do is you would do some validation on the custom field because all of the base fields, the base application itself will take care of it. But in our case, I'm just going to do some validation on a base field itself. But typically in your application, you would be doing a validation on a custom field. So let's do it on this score field right here. What I want to do is before I save it, I would just want to make sure that there is a value assigned to this. So again, we know the drill. So you can go into the UI adaptation mode. And this time we are going to create a controller. And this time we are going to create a controller on the details page. So we say extend with controller, and this is going to create a controller on the details page. So I can call it a detail controller extension. So I always suffix it with the word extension. And this is going to go ahead and create a detail controller extension file. So if I go back to my thing here, you can see that there is a detail controller extension. Now, what I really want is before I do the save, I want to do some validation here. And as part of the validation, if the validation succeeds, then I want the save to continue, and if the validation does not succeed, then I want the save to not continue, because you don't want to save it once the validation has failed. So for that, we are going to make use of a promise. So only if this method, this before save extension, this should return a promise, and if this promise is successful, then the save continues, and if it is rejected, then the save does not continue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to override and there is a method called before save extension that is available on the object page. And because this is a standard field, and this is how I'm getting access to that standard field. But in your case, though, you will be using a custom field, and for a custom field, we've already seen how you can get access to it. So this is how you would get access to a custom field. But in this case, I'm simply using a standard field, and I'm using this to get access to that field. And you can go ahead and do a new promise. And basically, I'm saying, hey, if there is no value to it, then just show this score is empty, and then you reject it. Okay, so now that I have the code right here, and I'm going to assume that I may have to go ahead and save it and reload it. And so it's all saved and reloaded. And on the app also, let me go ahead and refresh it. Hopefully the code is reflective of my changes. And you can go into this go method. You can go and you can click on this. This should take you to the object page. And if I hit F12, I should see my code right here. So I can open up my sources. I can say detail controller extension.js file, and this is my detail controller.extension.js file. I can put a breakpoint right here, and I'm already in the edit mode. Let me remove this score for the save. So save is empty. So my validation should actually fail. So if I click on this, sure enough, it hits my breakpoint right here. So let me put a breakpoint to one more thing here, and if I go, so it's asking for the value for this creditworthiness score. So if I click see the value, this should be empty right now, and therefore this should get rejected. So let me go ahead and make sure the value here is empty. Yes, this value is empty, so this should get rejected. So I should see a message toast saying that the creditworthiness score is empty. So I click on it. You can see that there is a message toast.show. Did I not bring in? Oh, I didn't bring in message toast, so that's why it failed. I only added message toast to the list report page. So let me go ahead and add this here as well, SAP message toast, and I'm going to add this here as well, message toast. But you get the idea. So once I have the message toast, it should work, and it should give me a message toast. I didn't add this in the detail controller. One of the more, so that's also the advantage of having this preview here, because with the preview, without the preview, I would be stuck. I would have like a hard time figuring out what the issue is. But here in this case, I'm able to go forward because now I can run this, and I should be able to get this creditworthiness score is empty, and the actual save did not happen because you can still see the discard draft and so on. But then if it did a resolve, let's say if I put the value 3 in here, I save, then it should say that it is the value is there, and it should also go ahead and save it as well. So it's taking more time, and now it's saved. Your changes have been saved. Okay, so that's how you would override your save method, and you can do some validation before the save. Now what you can also do is, now that your application is fully complete, you can go ahead and deploy it. And for that, you can right click on this web app folder, go into adaptation project, open deployment wizard. And deployment wizard is fairly straightforward. You need like a transport request and also a package that you want to deploy it to. And you also want to use the same destination in SAP BTP that you used to create your application. So it automatically picks up the destination that you used when you created your application. Say next. It's going to ask for a package. You can either enter it manually or you can choose from existing. I believe I have a package. Oops, choose from existing. Let me go ahead and type Z adaptation. Okay, so yes, so or Z Milton maybe. Yes, Z Milton. Select that. Say next, and just put in your request number and finish. And this should deploy this extension application back to the SAP S/4HANA system, and then you can use the catalogs and so on to assign it to the right user. Okay, it's been a long session. Hope you found it useful. Thank you.